So, what do the sinking of the Titanic, a cobra eating a canary in 1922, and the modern ethics of mass human cloning all have in common?
Right. I mean, it sounds like a completely random list.
It totally sounds like the setup to some weird, surreal joke, but according to the source material we're looking at today, they are actually all evidence of the exact same cosmic defense mechanism.
Yeah, and it is arguably one of the most unexpected logical leaps we have ever analyzed for you.
Honestly, my brain was short-circuiting reading it.
I don't blame you.
Uh,
As you listen today, the best way to really approach this text is as a masterclass in extreme pattern recognition.
Yeah.
The author takes this very historical pop cultural concept of the Curse of the Pharaohs, right? And they completely strip away the spooky supernatural superstition.
No, ghosts or whatever.
Exactly. Instead, they treat it like literal forensic evidence of a deliberate, highly calculated security protocol.
And man, what a protocol it is. We are going on a wild ride today, digging into this document that starts out reading like a 1920s true crime mystery wrapped in an archaeological dig. Right.
But then it entirely mutates. It abandons all the dust and the pottery shards to make this profoundly unsettling argument about, human survival.
And the limits of our intelligence.
Yes, and what the author calls divine restraint. So, welcome to the deep dive. Let's trace this author's thread from the sands of Egypt all the way to the underlying fabric of human existence.
To really grasp those massive philosophical warnings that the author hits us with at the end, we have to start by examining how they build their foundation.
Right, the raw data.
Exactly. They use raw historical data. They take us straight to the opening of King Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922.
Okay, let's unpack this because we all think we know the mummy's curse, right? It's movie monster stuff.
Yeah, the classic Hollywood trope.
Right, but the source material immediately grounds it in literal physical warnings that were left behind at the site. Like when the excavators first broke into that spacious room under the pyramid, they didn't just find gold.
No, they found a mud sculpture board. Exactly, and the translation on it essentially served as a highly visible "do not enter" sign. I mean, it literally read, death will come on swift wings to those who disturb the peace of the king.
And what's fascinating here is that the author points out this wasn't an isolated piece of intimidation.
There was more.
Yeah, there was another statue bearing an inscription claiming to be matched with the, quote, scorching heat of the desert.
Oh, wow.
Its stated purpose was specifically to force tomb robbers to flee and to actively guard Tutankhamun.
So it's not just a plaque, it's a threat.
Right. The text uses these inscriptions to argue that the terms and conditions of entering the space were clearly posted. By breaking the seal, the excavation team was effectively clicking, "I agree," to whatever consequences followed.
And the text meticulously catalogs exactly what those consequences were. But what's really interesting is that the author doesn't just, list a bunch of deaths.
Right. They categorize them.
Yeah, to build a case, they start with the immediate circle. You have the excavation leader, Lord Carnarvon. He falls ill right after the tomb is opened in December of 1922. And according to his sister's memoirs, which the text actually cites, he didn't just fade away quietly.
It was much more dramatic than that.
Yeah, he died in a Cairo hospital shouting in this high fever like, I heard him calling me and I'm going to join him.
Which is a chilling historical footnote all on its own.
Totally.
But the author focuses on the mechanics of what happens next. The nurse who accompanied Carnarvon in that hospital.
Oh, right, the one who was there.
Exactly, the person who actually heard him shouting those final words. She also dies inexplicably shortly after.
Unbelievable.
The author is using this to show that the curse isn't just targeting the people holding the shovels, it's actively targeting the witnesses.
Right. The text states that by the end of 1923, so just 1 year later, 22 people connected to the excavation had mysteriously died.
It's a massive cluster.
It is. It tracks this American railroad tycoon, Gruelle, who visited the tomb and suddenly dropped dead of a plague. It tracks Professor Richard, who x-rayed the mummy and immediately developed a fatal fever. It even tracks a skeptical museum director in Cairo, Mailer, who publicly boasted that he didn't believe in the curse.
And what happened to him?
He died of sudden heart disease exactly 4 weeks later.
This is where the text's methodology really becomes clear.
By gathering these specific anecdotes, the author's trying to prove that this isn't a passive biological hazard.
Right, like old spores or something.
Exactly. If it were just ancient mold or a trapped pathogen, it wouldn't care if you were boasting to the press.
Wait, hold on, though. I need to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Sure.
Because if this is such an absolute, flawless defense mechanism, how does the author account for the ultimate skeptic? Howard Carter.
Aye.
I mean, he was the primary excavation leader. He was the one who actually found the tomb and physically opened it. And he lives to be 65 years old. Doesn't that poke a massive hole in this whole theory of inescapable retribution?
You'd think so, but that is the exact counterargument the text anticipates. And how the author addresses it is fascinating.
Okay, lay it on me.
The text acknowledges Carter's long life, but then it zooms in on a very specific, strange detail from the historical record. Carter himself wasn't physically struck down, but shortly after the tomb was opened, his beloved pet canary was killed.
Yeah, and not just by anything.
Right. It wasn't killed by a feral cat, it was killed by a cobra inside his home.
Which is the literal symbol of Egyptian royalty.
Precisely. The author highlights the cobra not as some random coincidence, but as a deliberate signature.
It reads exactly like a mafia warning.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It's like the cosmic security system is leaving a horse head in his bed. It's saying, hey, we can bypass your physical defenses anytime we want. If we don't take you, we will take something you love. Just so you know, we are here.
And that analogy gets right to the heart of the author's argument. The author uses the cobra incident, along with the targeted death of the skeptical museum director, to prove that this curse acts with intelligence.
Thinking.
Yes. It evaluates its targets. It adapts. It's not a poisoned dart hidden in a wall that just fires blindly. It is an active, aware defense mechanism.
And it's a defense mechanism with an absolutely terrifying jurisdiction. Because, I mean, if we are just talking about fevers and bugs in Egypt, a skeptic could still try to rationalize it as a localized environmental danger.
Sure. Local hazards?
But the source argues that this intelligent mechanism expands far beyond the physical walls of the tomb. It acts like a, well, like a cosmic contagion.
The author spends a significant portion of the text tracking what we might call the ripple effect. We discuss Carter's canary, but the tragedy extends much further into his actual family.
Right.
The text notes that Carter's daughter later hanged herself, leaving a note that explicitly stated she could no longer bear the curse.
Gosh.
Carnarvon's family is similarly dismantled. A half-brother commits suicide due to what they call schizophrenia. A mother-in-law dies from a sudden fatal insect bite.
And then instead of just tracking bloodlines, the author starts tracking the supply chain.
Yes, the logistics.
It's this logistics chain of doom.
Yeah.
You've got an antiquities administrator who merely signs paperwork agreeing to send relics to Paris. What happens? He gets hit by a car and dies 3 days later.
It's relentless.
The doctor in Paris who signs the receiving agreement, Dr. Meverlitz, dies at home a week later. The pilots who physically airlift the relics both drop dead of heart disease.
And let's not forget Moses, who just knocked down a wall during the exhibition and suffered a complete nervous breakdown.
Exactly.
What's fascinating here is how the author uses these specific geographical jumps to eliminate biological explanations.
Right, because a bug doesn't fly to Paris.
Right. A 3,000-year-old bacteria doesn't survive a transatlantic flight, magically mutate, and cause a car crash in France.
Exactly.
The author points to the story of a San Francisco police officer to cement this. This officer was tasked with guarding Tutankhamun's golden mask during a U.S. exhibition.
Okay.
While on duty, he is suddenly hospitalized with severe heart issues. But the critical detail the text emphasizes is the officer's own claim.
What did he say?
He stated that while standing with his back to the mask, he felt a tangible physical force emanate from behind him that made him uncontrollably shiver.
Oh, that is creepy.
The author uses this anecdote to argue that the mask itself is projecting an active spatial anomaly. The curse travels with the physical artifacts.
Well, here's where it gets really interesting, because the text takes this idea of a spatial anomaly traveling with an artifact and applies it to an entirely different, incredibly famous historical disaster.
Ah, yes.
The Titanic.
The 1900 sarcophagus.
Right. So the text steps back from the 1920s to look at a different excavation from around 1900. They unearth an older stone sarcophagus.
Okay.
And the inscription on this one doesn't just promise death, it's highly specific. It says, whoever touches this coffin will be in trouble or will be swallowed by seawater.
Swallowed by seawater.
Yes. Unsurprisingly, the people involved in the dig start dying. But then, an American millionaire buys the coffin. He decides to ship his new prized possession across the Atlantic to the United States.
And we know how he shipped it.
He puts it on a ship in March of 1912. That ship is the RMS Titanic.
And the author makes a very deliberate point of connecting the literal text of that ancient inscription to the fate of the ship, noting that both the coffin and the supposedly unsinkable Titanic were ultimately, quote, swallowed by seawater.
As a reader, I just marveled at that inclusion. I mean, it fundamentally reframes how we are supposed to view this defense mechanism.
It scales it up drastically.
It really does. Like comparing the curse to a highly advanced, incredibly aggressive computer virus. Think about it. A normal virus just corrupts the single file you clicked on.
Right.
But this ancient firewall, it doesn't just infect the file, it infects your entire network. It infects the IT guy in Paris who tries to fix the network, and it infects the delivery driver bringing the replacement server across the ocean.
It takes down the whole system.
It will literally sink a multi-ton luxury ocean liner just to delete the stolen file.
That is exactly the scale the author is trying to establish, synthesizing this massive laundry list of casualties. I mean, the text claims at least 40 archaeologists and logistical personnel died suddenly. And that's not even counting the unnamed workers or the Titanic passengers.
Right.
The author uses all of this to challenge the reader's skepticism. They essentially say, if you think this is just a string of coincidences, go give Tutankhamun's golden mask a hug and see what happens to you.
Which is a wildly aggressive challenge to issue in a historical text.
It is, but the author is intentionally overwhelming you with this undeniable pattern of death to justify a massive metaphysical pivot.
Okay, yeah.
They spend all this time proving the absolute deadliness and reach of the security system so they can finally ask the real question. What on earth is so important that it requires a defense mechanism capable of sinking the Titanic?
Exactly. Okay, I was really struggling with this while reading. Why go to such absurd supernatural lengths just to protect some old gold in a mummified body?
That doesn't make sense for just gold.
No. And this is where the source completely abandons the historical anecdotes. We leave the 1920s entirely behind, and we jump into this intense, profound philosophical explanation of why this security exists.
The text introduces a radical paradigm shift here. It argues that pyramids are not merely opulent tombs for dead kings.
Far from it.
Right. It claims they act as the womb of human birth, containing the fundamental mysteries of our existence.
And according to the text, discovering the secrets inside this womb directly affects whether humans should even be allowed to continue surviving on Earth.
Which is a terrifying escalation.
It really is. And to explain this, the author uses an analogy about human government, specifically the Department of Defense.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the author argues that if a civilian somehow penetrates a highly classified military vault, say a nuclear launch facility,
Yeah.
the government doesn't just let them walk away with those secrets. You don't get a slap on the wrist for bypassing top-tier security.
Right. The text lists the brutal reality of what it calls peeping into classified realms. It says that depending on the secrecy level of what you uncover, you face being threatened, having your tongue cut out, your eyes gouged, being imprisoned in a dark cell, or just straight up executed.
It's an argument based on scale and proportionality. If flawed human governments protect their temporal earthly secrets with lethal, unyielding force,
What would the universe do?
exactly, what level of force would a cosmic entity use to protect the fundamental source code of human existence?
Man, I love your computer virus analogy from earlier, and it really maps perfectly onto what the text is saying about a firewall. Because how does a digital firewall actually work?
It filters access.
It doesn't just block a connection, right? It inspects the data packets, it evaluates your intent, checks your credentials, and determines your security clearance.
Nexus.
The author is essentially arguing that this ancient curse is a cosmic firewall that evaluated Howard Carter, evaluated Lord Carnarvon, evaluated the artifacts themselves, and determined that humanity lacked the clearance for what they found.
Precisely. And to drive home just how drastically we lack that clearance, the author uses what is easily the most unsettling analogy in the entire text.
Oh, the pet dog analogy.
Yeah.
For you listening, I really want you to think about how deeply uncomfortable this makes you feel. The author asks, if the dogs we raise at home gradually possess human intelligence, should we continue to raise them or execute them?
It forces a total humiliating shift in our perspective.
It strips away every ounce of our human arrogance. We like to frame ourselves as the masters of the universe, right? the brilliant explorers bravely unlocking the mysteries of our past.
But we aren't.
No, this text says, no, you are the pets. And worse, we are pets who are getting dangerously too smart for our own good.
And becoming a liability.
Exactly. We've wandered into the master's study, we've figured out how to open the safe, and now the master has to decide if we're a threat that needs to be put down.
This is the core of the concept of divine restraint. The curse isn't about malicious ancient Egyptians holding a grudge over stolen gold. It is a cosmic quarantine. The author is arguing that humanity is simply not authorized. We do not possess the spiritual or developmental clearance to possess this level of knowledge yet.
But wait, hold on. I need to stop you there because this is where my brain completely short-circuited while reading the source material.
Okay.
What exactly is the secret? We go from a cobra eating a canary in a dusty Egyptian house
To mass human cloning.
Yes. How does the author even build a bridge between an ancient burial site and 20th century biotechnology? As a reader, I really struggled to see the connective tissue there.
It is a staggering leap, I'll admit, but it makes sense within the author's internal logic of the pyramid as a womb.
Okay, explain that.
The text likens the ultimate secret, guarded by these firewalls, directly to modern cloning technology. The argument is that the pyramids contain the blueprint of human creation.
The actual source code.
Exactly. Therefore, if humanity masters cloning, if humans can be replicated on a large scale in a lab, we are no longer just reading the blueprint. We are trying to write our own code.
Here, we're trying to become the manufacturer.
Exactly. And the text warns that doing so directly threatens the balance of life. It uses that term in all caps to describe a vast, interconnected ecosystem across various spaces.
Right.
The author believes that artificial replication disrupts the cosmic order of the reincarnation of life.
Okay, so it's treating genetics and human creation not as biology, but as proprietary cosmic code.
Yes.
If we figure out how to clone ourselves, we aren't just making a scientific breakthrough, we are actively hacking the reincarnation cycle.
For breaking the system.
We are overriding the cosmic operating system, playing a game where we don't even know the rules, let alone the consequences.
That is the exact danger the author perceives.
Yeah.
We're the dog trying to rewrite the rules of the house.
Wow.
And because the consequences of hacking that cosmic code are so severe, the text delivers an incredibly ominous, almost desperate warning at the end.
What does it say?
It says, for those who know about cloning technology, it's best not to say anything. Think about it yourself.
Basically, just keep your mouth shut. That is a terrifying piece of advice.
It is a genuine plea for ignorance, or at least for silence. The text concludes by advising us to just be, quote, honest people.
Honest people.
Yeah. It explicitly tells us to suppress our insatiable curiosity, promising that these cosmic secrets will eventually be revealed by destined people when the time is right.
So we shouldn't force it.
Right. The timeline of our evolution is not up to us. And the author leaves us by asking if all of these phenomena, the curses, the spatial anomalies, the terrifying firewalls, allow us to deduce the existence of a greatest creator.
So what does this all mean for us? We have gone on an absolute roller coaster with this source material today.
That's putting it mildly.
Seriously. We started by looking at a bizarre statistical cluster of tragic deaths surrounding archaeological digs, fevers in Cairo, fatal bug bites, car crashes in Paris, and the literal sinking of the Titanic.
Right.
And instead of writing it off as bad luck, the author takes that raw data and builds an impenetrable fortress of logic around it.
They do.
They claim it is proof of a cosmic firewall designed to swat us down and stop us from hacking the human source code before we are spiritually mature enough to handle it.
This raises an important question, and it's really the absolute crux of the author's thesis. Uncontrolled curiosity is an existential threat to our species.
Yeah.
The belief here is that a greatest creator implemented these deadly curses as necessary defense mechanisms. We are being firmly warned to stay in our lane.
Don't open the door.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To not let our arrogance lead us into a vault we can't survive, and to wait patiently until the universe decides we are ready.
It is a stark, incredibly heavy warning. I mean, we've journeyed from the swift wings of death in King Tut's tomb all the way to a grand philosophical doctrine about the dangers of human cloning.
It covers a lot of ground.
It makes you look at every technological leap we make with just a little bit of suspicion, you know?
It is a deeply fascinating, if unsettling, framework. But as we wrap up our analysis today, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. One that builds directly on the text's own logic, but perhaps challenges its conclusion. The source strongly warns us against letting our curiosity lead us to our own destruction, right?
Right.
Urging us to just sit on our hands and wait until the time is right. But think about this. If a greatest creator truly designed these ultimate lethal defense mechanisms, these incredibly complex, unbreachable firewalls, didn't they also design us?
Oh,
And didn't they design us with a very insatiable, unstoppable curiosity that compels us to try and break into the vault in the first place?
that's a good point.
Are we really supposed to sit still, or are we being punished for a trait that was fundamentally programmed into our own source code?
That is the ultimate catch-22, isn't it?
Yeah.
The creator gives us a locked door and a brain evolutionarily built to pick locks and then punishes us for finding the key.
Exactly.
It has been a wild, mind-bending ride through this material today. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the code, keep exploring the vaults, and we'll see you next time.